reported on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, just today, I was saying that I was scrolling through Facebook. Not one, but two women on my timeline. Now, I don't know how many friends I have. It's a lot of them. I'm hoping that that's the reason that there are two, but that's still too many for me. Are dealing with domestic abuse. One
Mm.
woman in particular was saying that her still husband, even though she's in the middle of a divorce, had broken into her house. He had been threatening her.
Wow.
The other woman was talking about how the police weren't helping, that she called them and they were taking their time getting to her place, and they both have restraining orders. And,
Mm.
and really, what I'm thinking is all the stuff I see on the news about people getting pulled over and arrested, assaulted, or killed by the police. Like, y'all are so active. Why aren't you out protecting people? Like, you're literally
Absolutely.
pulling over people who aren't doing anything, and there are people you should be out protecting. Now, I don't know what police departments these are, and I understand that some are more violent than others, but I am concerned
Yeah.
for not just women, but for men, but mostly for women.
Anyone who's vulnerable. And I have some statistics I can go over with you guys. Just going to highlight some of the numbers that are here that are staggering. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence in the United States. And some more. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines here in the United States. Those are some staggering numbers. And we're going to talk about the implications of some of those numbers that are out there. I want to first introduce our guests. Melissa Waller, she's a collaborative leader and counselor, psychotherapist, actively engaging in communities and stakeholders on issues of career transition for individuals with disabilities, and an advocate for social justice among students with mental health challenges. Melissa is deeply committed to the advancement of mental health in the mental health field. Melissa obtained her Master of Science degree in clinical mental health counseling from Mercer University and is currently a PhD candidate in their counselor education PhD program, where she's also an adjunct professor. Hello, Melissa, and welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, as I read off some of those statistics that are out there, what were some initial thoughts you had about some of those numbers where 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States? What goes through your mind?
They're very much accurate, and one that really stands out, and I didn't hear you mention this one, but this is the one that people really understand. People go back and return to those unhealthy relationships at a minimum of 7 times.
Darn.
Wow.
Minimum of 7 times. Because a lot of times people don't want to give up their lifestyles, especially if children are involved. I found just in some of the groups that I facilitated or groups that I was once a part of, I had people who were married to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies,
Okay.
married to music executives, those types of things. So, they don't want to give up those lifestyles. And you will find the shame that comes with it. They don't want to talk about it, especially in, religious arenas. It's very common. Very common.
And you would think that would be a safe place.
Right.
Because, a lot of times I think people use scripture
Absolutely.
to, what's the word
Justify?
I'm looking for? There we go. Yeah.
Their
justify,
behavior.
Yeah.
Their behavior. And my thing is, I think that that's why in so many different religious areas, they're trying to overcome the stigmas. I just facilitated an interfaith symposium last week, and there was a Buddhist there, a pastor, someone from the temple, and that's what we talked about. How do we overcome some of these stigmas that are in our religious areas or places that we go to during the week that, we stand on our faith and ask for deliverance or remove me. However, we don't want to expose what's really happening.
Don't want to do anything about it, is what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And some of these people are willing to endure some of this physical violence You say up to 7 times, 7 different occasions.
Because the physical side is the ending of it. It starts off with the verbal, financial, you know. A lot of women don't have access to their finances. You know, they have shared accounts. And it might be something that's just believing. I found that in a lot of the groups that I'm in, they really feel as though, you know, this person's just sarcastic. Oh, that's just them. That's just their personality. No, that's who they really are. And if you don't recognize an unhealthy relationship and when someone is trying to control and manipulate you, oh, you're going to take my children away from me? That's what you're really going to do? You want the kids to grow up, you know, without a mother or a father? You got to let go of that.
So they make excuses for
Absolutely.
reason why they should stay. And it sounds like a lot of these individuals are sort of sacrificing their own peace of mind and their
Absolutely.
own body. But what are they sacrificing it for? If you can help us to understand that. If they're getting beat up, used, manipulated.
Because
and
like I heard money, and I'm thinking,
I heard money too.
like what
Yes.
would be
Well, the
that
shame
magic
that
number
comes with it.
Okay.
The shame that comes with it. I have facilitated several groups in the suburbs of Atlanta, and you would be surprised what pulls up to the groups and the stories that they have. Just the lifestyles that they live, you know, maybe growing up underprivileged or not wanting people to know. If your husband is the pastor or your wife is the principal and this is what's taking place, do you really want to expose them? Where will I go? Will we still be able to entertain at
embarrassment.
this level? Absolutely, the embarrassment of it all. You know, not wanting the children to know, but the children know what's going on.
Yeah, they do. I think a lot of times people think, you know, the children haven't heard you fight, that you've gone far enough and away in the house. I have had a child client that said they go into the garage because they think I don't hear them in the garage, but I can still hear them upstairs in my room 2 floors up.
So it's
in
hard
the
to
other room.
hide.
And your colleagues know about it. At one point in time, when I was teaching in the actual classroom, I had a colleague that eventually her husband ended up shooting her in the face. She always had to go. She never had any money. She always needed to borrow money. You know, she never had time to socialize. He called all the time. He texted all the time, or he would just show up unannounced. And she would kind of look startled when he came around. She was always disheveled, very anxious. Those were all symptoms that we saw. And I never thought anything of it. I just thought, oh my gosh, something's wrong with her. Well, eventually, one day, a couple years later, they went on a cruise, and you know she had lost a lot of weight, and they came back from the cruise, and she said she thought everything was fine. Well, long story short, she informed him that she was going to leave him, and so when she went to run out of the house, she ran into the garage, and he hit the garage door opener and made the garage go down, and he shot her. He put the gun up to her chin, and when she turned her head, the bullet went through her face and out of her ear.
Oh, wow.
And again, he went to the hospital, called 911, and told the people, you know, someone has come in and attacked my wife.
Oh,
Made up a lie.
And that's right. So he thought she was going to die because she was in intensive care. Well, she ended up, she said when she woke up, she was in a lot of pain. But she gestured to the nurse for a pen because they wanted to talk to her. And they let the police officers know that, you know, she couldn't talk because, of course, her teeth were shattered. Well, she wrote on a piece of paper, he did it.
Oh, wow.
And he left the hospital. That's the audacity and the nerve, because people think DV perps are
They're
these
bold.
big monsters, and they're not. They're charming.
They can get away with it.
Absolutely.
So I'm hearing an element of control in that story that you just told. I haven't had any clients who experienced physical violence. They never reported that, but I've certainly heard of situations where one spouse or partner was trying to control the other person. What role does that play in this type of dynamic?
That plays a big role, because you have to think that's what all of this is about. Control. I'm going to control who you're with,
I've
where
seen
you're
that.
going, what's going on. There's a lot of isolation from family members, from friends, your mind. So
And I don't want to share you.
absolutely.
Gotcha.
So, in thinking about control, how much, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. How much does money usually play a role in like the control leading up to physical violence? Because I'm thinking of a personal friend I know who is noting that she had a baby. She stays at home. Her husband is working, and now the baby's about 8 months old. She's thinking I should go back to work now. I've been thinking there may be some domestic violence before. Even though I asked and she never said anything, but he doesn't want her to go back to work. That might not be a bad thing. The thing is, he has to give her money for everything.
That's a red flag.
And so,
That's a red
that was
flag.
my red flag. Like, hey, I need to take my son to. I need to go to the grocery store. Can I have $20 to
So
put?
she doesn't have access to
No,
the
that's my
accounts?
not just that she's
A
staying
debit
home and he
card?
does nothing. Can I have $20 to put gas in my car?
That would not
to
fly
go
in my
to the
household
gro-
at all,
Listen,
whatsoever.
I'm okay with staying
track it
home,
all.
but I need to have access
I've
to the
seen where they
funds.
track mileage in the
Mileage?
car. You left. This is where the car was when I left home, and when I returned. So where did you go?
There's this element of suspicion.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Because they're very insecure. You know, they're charming, but there's an insecurity there. That whole not being good enough. Especially my situation was totally different. This was the first time that I had ever been in a relationship like this. The red flag for me, and of course, being that I'm a counselor, I recognized it was in my situation, I was recently divorced. So I had about as much self-esteem. My self-esteem was about as much as a fingernail. It wasn't that much.
You were vulnerable. You were at a low
And
point.
very vulnerable. And he was a widower. His wife had recently passed, and he was a single parent. And so for me, it was getting that family, that illusion of what could be family. He was nice.
It seemed safe.
Absolutely. Very safe, was stable, worked, fun, did all that great
So
stuff.
far,
and
sounds
had
great.
been in a good relationship.
Absolutely.
it just-
So
Had
far,
been in a-
sounds good.
Until I met his mother-in-law.
okay.
I just so happened to meet his mother-in-law, and the stories were totally different. And so now, and I know this may sound crazy, but if I'm entering into a relationship, I do background checks. I'm checking every county.
I don't think that's
not
crazy at all.
right?
I'm checking every
I think
county
everyone should.
because that's not DV perps aren't what you see on TV. The majority of them. I was just talking to someone today, and I was telling her. I said, he's a DV perp. And she was like, I can't believe you would say that. He's so nice. I said, but that element of control, of you don't know the rules. And so in my situation, everything was fine. We even ended up getting engaged.
Okay.
Like things were great.
Okay.
We had basic arguments. Of course.
No deal breakers.
No deal breakers because I had been married before. So I kind of knew what was
Okay.
going
that you
on.
picked your battles.
Absolutely. And so that's how I
Typical.
felt. It wasn't an
Self-awareness.
issue, but when I got pregnant, it
What changed?
first of all, when I informed him that I was pregnant, he was like, "You're not keeping it. Like, we're not getting ready to do this."
Wow.
I was like, "Wow, wait a minute."
Had y'all talked about having kids together?
Yes. We,
So
of
that
course,
was the
because we were
shock.
getting married. So,
Okay.
this was very new to me. And his response, and it was like very aggressive. And you're not keeping this baby, and this is what's going to happen. And so, what ended up happening is it would start off with he went from 0 to 10. And on two totally
You know,
different
his
spectrums.
anger, his assertiveness.
It was very assertive to manipulation. So I would be at work and get flowers and, because I was like, first of all, I'm good. Like, if this is not what you want to do, then I'm okay, but this is my choice. And so I'm going to work this thing out.
Gotcha.
And, there are processes that we can put in place whereas you can sign your parental rights off.
Yeah.
Like I'm good, and I believe in my choice.
Gotcha.
And so therefore my choice was to keep this child, especially at 29. So he became aggressive, and it went from, staying out, being outside of my door, to sending me emails and sending text messages. And then when, I would block him or call security, it then went to sending flowers to my job, like real crazy things. Because the extremes were too far from me. And so I took a restraining order out. I took a restraining order out because I felt like, I have boundaries. We're not going to be together. I'm going to move on with my life.
So he was doing too much to try to convince you to not to have the baby.
Yeah, because he was like, we can still get
Don't
married.
right, don't have the baby, but stay with me.
No, and that was my thing. Like, how can you say we're still going to be together and we're still going to get married, but you don't want me to have this child? Like, no, that's not what's going to happen.
So you were letting him know this relationship is over?
Yes.
Are you saying that's when he escalated his behavior? Okay.
And the behavior didn't escalate, and this is what I'm saying. We had never had any type of physical violence ever.
Okay.
Not a grab, not a push, not a shove.
Because up until that point, he was a good guy.
Absolutely. And it was, let's go here. He traveled for work. And we traveled a lot, had a great time. However, I learned that his wife completed suicide. She had postpartum depression, very young. And their child I think he was about 5 or 6 months old when all of this happened.
Wow.
And so it triggered, when I got pregnant, it triggered something in him. And that was an excuse.
I got you.
But I understood, but
Where it
that's
was
your
coming
problem.
from.
That's your
Right,
stuff.
you need to work on.
Yeah, you need
work
to
on
do
that.
that's your stuff. And so what ended up happening is it carried on, the harassment, the stalking, and even with the restraining order. And so I ended up pressing charges, and he did go to jail, but it caused me to go into early labor. And
Stress.
so the stress from it all.
Yeah.
And the stress from that, and I didn't have any money because I had just started teaching, and I'm originally from Michigan. In the state of Michigan, you get maternity leave. Like, it isn't a big deal. You get pregnant while you're working, you get maternity leave. Well, here it's not that way. Some things have changed.
I don't know anything about the
Yeah,
rules,
you
so I
have
haven't
paid
had one
maternity
here.
leave that you get after you work so many months or
Oh,
whatnot.
okay.
And I didn't have that. And so my hands were tied. And he called and he was like, I know you need some money. I know you need money. I
Still
know
being
you need
helpful.
things. There you go.
That nice,
And
charismatic guy showed back up.
Dealing with postpartum depression and things of like trying to figure out, how did I even get here? Like, how did all of this happen?
Yeah.
He ended up, I never allowed him to come to my place. But he would leave things in the leasing office for me, diapers or whatever. And, I was here by myself and I'm trying to figure this all out. And all it took was that one time for me to send a text message, thank you. And then it was like a volcano.
Of what?
The messages, the harassing, he would call the police on me.
Well, what did he want from you?
What he wanted, he was very angry after I had the baby. Like, he didn't want me to have the baby, but I had her.
Okay.
And what ended up happening is he was just angry. It was just expressing
Oh, so he
his
was
anger.
taking out that anger on you
Right.
for doing something he
Because
didn't want you to do.
Right. And he felt like, I told you not to do this, and you did it, so I'm gonna
He was
let
going
you
to punish
struggle.
you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm going to let you struggle, and I'm going to make you need me. Well.
But you showed him that you actually didn't need him. You could take care of yourself despite the financial strain you were in.
Absolutely.
Do you believe that made his anger increase?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that, one of the things that you said, and we were talking about, once I can remember him coming over to my place and he was just knocking on the door. The baby was crying and, I'm calling the police because I'm like, what? At this point in time, I wasn't a licensed carrier. So I don't want this to take place again.
Licensed carrier.
Yeah, in regards to owning a gun.
Okay. Thank you.
And so what ended up happening is when he came over, I called the police, and the police, they ended up finding him, and he went to jail. But the guy said, I don't want to lock him up because you're not going to do anything but let him come back.
Oh, that's what the police officer
This
said?
is what the police said.
Oh, okay. Silence.
Yeah, I mean, because unfortunately, I've heard that from police officers that I know who have said, we go back and forth on these domestic violence calls, and sometimes we arrest these guys and the women take them back. So after a certain point in time, I'm just like, why do we keep coming? And why are you wasting our time? And she doesn't care about herself. Why should we care about her?
And you have to
But that's the
remember,
police
minimum
making
time
a
is seven. It's 7 times.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not their job
It's
to make
not.
the decision.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Their job is to arrest the person, file the citation, and let the courts
But
decide.
it's even not, it goes even further than that now. So my situation happened in 2009. Now they have this whole aggressor who was who demonstrated the most aggression. So say for instance, if you have someone that grabs you by the arm and you push him and you scratch his neck a little bit, and he could have been beating you down. If he can show that there was a scratch, you both get arrested.
Yeah.
So I think that is something I want to talk about. Women getting arrested for domestic violence
for
as well.
protecting
So
themselves.
we're going
And
to
if
come.
children are there, there's another charge.
Yeah.
So when we come back from our break, we're going to continue to talk with Melissa Waller, and I think our other guests should be here as well. Keep listening. Let's close out Domestic Violence Awareness Month by bringing you all into awareness.
You're listening to IBNX. IBNXradio.com. The station with the best music. Best music.
I love the music.
Best music.
Hey, what's up? It's Jay-Z.
Hey, I'm Mariah Carey. Hey, it's Katy Perry.
It's your boy T.I.P., man. Get it. It's your boy Sean Kingston.
What's up, y'all? I'm Beyonce. This is Nicki Minaj, and I'm in the mix with
IBNX Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, each and every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. to JC Squared on the Air Show featuring Jason J-Boy Carey, Hova the Socialite, JC Squared on the Air. Reason Monday is your new favorite day of the week music. Special guest,
Those are the
birthday, the daily,
physical
student
parts.
segment, crazy holiday, and today in hip hop. IBNX Radio and the JC Squared on the Air Show. So much fun you didn't even realize you learned something.
Right.
This
And
message
we
has
have
been
been
brought to
in a
you by
relationship
Day Ray Media.
Almost 10 years before any of this surfaced.
You're listening to IBNX. IBNXradio.com. The station with the best music. Best music.
I love the music.
Best music.
Hey, what's up? It's Jay-Z.
Hey, I'm Mariah Carey. Hey, it's Katy Perry.
It's your boy T.I.P., man. Get it. It's your boy Sean Kingston.
What's up, y'all? I'm Beyonce. This is Nicki Minaj, and I'm in the mix with
IBNX Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, each and every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. to JC Squared on the Air Show featuring Jason J-Boy Carey, Hova the Socialite, JC Squared on the Air. Reason Monday is your new favorite day of the week music. Special guest, celebrity birthday, the daily, student segment, crazy holiday, and today in hip hop. IBNX Radio and the JC Squared on the Air Show. So much fun you didn't even realize you learned something. This message has been brought to you by Day Ray Media.
Did you get in? All right, welcome back to Two Therapists and a Microphone. Happy Halloween.
Absolutely.
I'm Dr. Asha Dickerson.
I'm Dr. Harrison Davis.
And we just want to continue to talk about domestic violence, something that's a lot more scary than the people who might come to your house tonight. So we have with us today Melissa Waller, and we'll shortly have Dr. Shanita Brown. But Melissa, I wanted to give you a chance to finish saying what you were saying before we were going on a break, to tell us about the marks. You said Now, weighing who left the most marks when deciding
Well,
who
if
to
both
arrest?
parties have marks on them, um, they both will go to jail. They
Okay.
both will go to jail, even if she was trying to defend herself.
Okay.
They will both go to jail. If there are children involved, there's a child endangerment charge if the children are there. And so you have a lot of women, they just don't report it because you have to think and this isn't domestic violence isn't something that just affects people of lower SES.
Of course not.
You have people from all different walks of life. In my situation, my teaching certificate could have been online because I wasn't a counselor yet.
Yeah.
And so my teaching certificate, because
If
there
you
was a
got a
child there,
CPS case, yeah, you can't
absolutely,
work
you
with
cannot
children.
have that. So you have, and it hasn't been that long ago where you've seen the husband. I want to say it was like in California or Arizona, went into school and shot his wife.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're not reporting. They don't want to lose their livelihood, their job.
Absolutely.
I have a
Wow.
former student whose cousin was just murdered 2 weeks ago. They found her in her apartment.
Wow.
He had shot her and just shot her in the head and left her there in the bed. So, those of you watching on Facebook now can see our next guest. I want to introduce her and bring her into the conversation. We have Dr. Shanita Brown, who is a licensed professional counselor, speaker, educator, and trainer that fosters transformative and empowering dialogue about intimate partner violence and mental health wellness. With over 10 years of experience in the clinical mental health field, she is a servant leader dedicated to breaking the silence and empowering change regarding her area of expertise. Dr. Brown's extensive work in intimate partner violence includes service with the North Carolina Domestic Violence Task Force and Board of Directors for the North Carolina Coalition Against Sexual Assault. She's traveled throughout the country providing educational workshops and presentations to diverse audiences. And today she is joining us distance. Hi, Dr. Brown. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you all? Can you hear me? No?
Hey, Dr.
Manel?
Brown, can you hear us?
I can hear you all. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
I can hear
So
you.
we're gonna come back to her. So Melissa, what I wanted to ask, you were describing your story to us about the beginning of control and manipulation within a relationship. What can possibly be the end result of all of that?
Well, to be honest with you, death,
Okay.
and that's extreme, but it's real. And everything from
It's a
low
reality for a lot
self-esteem-
of people.
Absolutely, low self-esteem, being financially in debt. For me, that was one of the things that led me to join the Georgia Women's Policy Institute to get the law changed with House Bill 834. Because I ended up getting so much debt from leaving my apartment. I ended up abandoning my apartment because it was too much. I would try to break the lease, and because I was out on maternity leave, I couldn't afford to pay those penalties and costs that came with breaking the lease. So they would just move me, and when they moved me, he found me.
Oh wow.
And so what ended up happening is I abandoned the apartment, and I ended up finding, just a blessing, finding another apartment where a lady, she let me rent it. I mean, $750 in downtown Decatur, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom.
Oh, that's good.
900 square feet. And I felt like it was for me because
That
as
is
I
a
was
blessing.
driving down the street,
Is
she
that
was
still
just putting.
available?
No, ma'am. She was putting the sign out, and I'm like, oh my gosh. We went through situation or temporary homelessness, because I was very transient. I just wanted my peace back. I wanted my sanity back. And so, I would do anything for that. And it just so happened that she showed up right on time, and it worked out.
So it sounds like it is difficult for the victims to deal with the consequences of reporting it, and the abuser can make it so it could appear a little bit more appealing to go back because
Absolutely.
things are getting complicated for the victim and financially and trying to deal with things. And why don't I just go back? So that's, would you say that's a fair statement about why
It
some
is very
women go back?
fair. A friend of mine was here visiting, and we were talking about one of her friends that has a very good job with an automotive corporation, drives a luxury car, is doing very well for herself.
Okay.
But she's with this guy that she's been with him for the last 20 years.
That's all she knows.
And that's all she knows. And I mean, her self esteem is very low. She doesn't think, she can do any better. And he laughs and tells people, yeah, I told her she can't be around you all. And she let you go.
Mm. So he's bragging about the power he has over her
Absolutely.
that she's allowing him to have,
Absolutely.
and she won't make the move
Absolutely.
to turn that situation around.
Absolutely.
I see.
So that's one of the things that I worry about with anyone who is in the situation, especially if they've been in a relationship for a long time. I think there are a lot of women who stay in relationships simply because I've been in this relationship for a long time. I don't know anything different. And, like, who wants to start over? Dating is
Absolutely.
garbage.
This
It's
is all
not,
they know.
It's not fun. You don't want to have to get comfortable with someone else. So
So they're
if I've
weighing their
already-
options.
Absolutely.
if I've already gotten comfortable with you and maybe even gotten comfortable with, you hitting me every now and then, that may seem better for me than starting over.
I've
with somebody
actually
else.
seen that with
Than
men
somebody
as
new
well.
having to see me without my clothes on. and stuff.
Yeah, there's some
Yes.
statistics about the men going
Yes.
through something very similar, and it sounds like they weigh their options. Maybe I can just give up all my friends, and not have those social relationships as long as I get to be secure, in this relationship. And possibly that's a way the wife or the husband can make their partner be a little bit more at ease. So they're thinking that's going to stop some of the violence and the manipulation. Would that be a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement. And one of the things that, I just spoke to someone about who is in a same sex partner relationship with two men, the person didn't understand that they were in an intimate partner violence relationship.
Yeah.
And, his statement to me was, well, when people see two men fighting, they don't think anything of it. It's kind of, boys will be boys. And I had to explain to them, you are not a boy. You're a man in a relationship with someone that you care about, and you all are fighting.
So
I want to try. Can we try and see if I can hear Dr. Brown one more time? She can hear us now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Dr. Brown, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
She can hear me. Can you say something? Let me see if I can hear you.
Hey, all. This is a great conversation. Can you
All
hear
right,
me?
I can
Yes,
hear
hear
you
you.
now. Right. All right.
Yes,
So you
yes,
all
yes,
already
yes,
got
yes.
a chance to hear her bio. Can you weigh in for us, since you do focus on intimate partner violence? Weigh in on same-sex relationships and what domestic violence might look like there, and what type of bias they might be experiencing.
Okay, so thank you all for the opportunity. I'm so excited to be here. For me, domestic violence awareness is every day. It's 365 days a week, just like mental health awareness. So
Mm-hmm.
regarding same-sex couples, nobody is exempt, as Melissa was talking about earlier. And so they experience this as well. It's that pattern of power and control, that pattern of controlling behavior that you would see in all types of relationships, regardless of their sexual orientation, their race, their ethnicity, their wealth. I mean, all these multiple identities. And so I would say for LGBT couples, they do have to deal with multiple barriers as to why they may stay in a relationship. One being for our relationships, why a victim may stay, because fear and leaving is one of the most dangerous times, right? That is one of the most dangerous times for anyone leaving a domestic violence situation. And that's because the victim is wanting to take back their power and take control. And so the perpetrator may feel that they're losing power. And so with the LGBT, for their relationships, they may say because fear of being outed, right? Fear that if they leave that particular situation, they may be outed. They may think that this is normal. So it's very complex, thinking about, the multiple identities and, I would say, multiple oppressions for LGBT people and also in general for people of color. One of the main reasons fear being outed and why they may stay in that relationship.
Thank you. So we only have about 15 more minutes, but one thing I want to
Okay.
make sure I bring up is that lately when I've seen things about domestic violence, about men hitting women, there seem to be people making comments about, well, did the woman hit him first? And women not
Oh
to hit
boy.
men if they don't expect to get hit back. How
Ooh.
much are women actually the perpetrators of domestic violence?
So okay. So are you asking about the statistics of women who are the perpetrators?
If you know them, I love to hear them.
I don't know the actual statistics, but I do know, but based on what you're saying, it is so disheartening because we have this culture where we're asking about what did a woman do, right? And
Yes.
so we should, and when I see those comments, it's about, it's nothing that any victim can do. No one contributes to that behavior, right? It's more of a
Hmm.
mindset. It's more about power and control. So it is so important when we see these comments, it's like, so why did he hit her? Or why did he, what is happening that a person feels like you have to put your hands on somebody? It's really a certain power and control. And so I don't know those actual statistics where women may be the perpetrator, but overwhelmingly there's a lot of research out here that really supports and show that men are the abusers and men are also victims, but men don't report.
I can remember a few years ago when Chris Brown, the singer,
Oh
got into the
yeah.
Oh,
altercation
yeah.
with Rihanna, the singer,
Yeah.
and I think it was a Oprah show or some talk show that was out there, and the
Right.
majority of the audience actually blamed Rihanna, the victim,
Yes.
and I think we all saw some of the images of her with the bruised and swollen face afterwards, where a lot of the people, young people, thought that she deserved that type of treatment, or they wondered what did she do to ask for it. So I'm gonna ask our two guests: have you seen that type of
Well, I
reaction?
watched both interviews. I watched both interviews. The interview that Oprah did with her, as well as his documentary. And here we have two people that have a very toxic relationship,
Yes,
and
they
people
did.
supported it.
Gotcha.
Because what both of them tried to do to one another is take the other person's voice away. Because that's what happens. That the physical side of domestic violence takes place when you won't shut up,
Okay.
when you're talking too much. They were in a car, and she talked about things that played out, and there was some accusations, but at the same time, she spit on him.
Okay.
And when she spit on him, there was a reaction. And my thing was, who saw all of this happening? Who This just didn't start that day.
Gotcha.
So when we think about, I don't think that physical violence is ever justifiable, but at the same time, we've been sitting here talking. There are red flags that you see in relationships that people never say anything about, that occur months prior to the actual physicality of the whole situation. And that's the ending part. That's saying to your friend, hey, I don't think that's good for you. I don't think he's good for
And
you.
see, and I'm that friend, but sometimes your friends will stop talking to you because they don't want to hear. They're like, you're bringing this negativity into my life and my
It,
relationship.
Or
and
if you tell them that, give them a warning of what you see happening between them and this other person, they go and tell the other person.
And I've had that
Yep.
happen. The
it's so
thing about it is
complex.
understanding, and you see all of these stories where the perp will try to convince the victim that the friends don't want them together. Now, if you have
Yeah.
access to money, to your friends, to your family members, you know, you would think a red flag would go off and say, the only person I have is this individual I'm in a relationship with. But a lot of times they deal with, lack of validation, lack of self love. So, therefore, whatever this person says to me, it has to be true.
Gotcha.
Dr. Brown, could you
Yes.
possibly tell us how can the layperson help without seeming like they're just trying to get in other people's business?
Yes. And so the first thing is just to listen without judgment.
Okay.
That's important to listen without judgment. Really saying, hey, I'm concerned about your well being. I don't know what this is like. I'm afraid for your safety. I am here when you are ready. It is so important to be mindful that we don't tell somebody to get out. We don't have that right to tell somebody to get out of that situation. They are already in a controlling situation. So it's important that we say, I am concerned when you are ready. I'm concerned about your well-being. I don't know what this is like, but violence, you deserve a life that is free of violence. Helping
That's
them
very
to
good.
understand that, you deserve a life free of violence. I love you. You don't deserve to be abused. So it is really, you have to be cautious and be very careful. Like we're talking about as therapists, we provide a very safe, non-judgmental environment for our friends who are in this very toxic relationship. And do what you can to understand about domestic violence. It is very complex. There are so many reasons why a victim would stay in that relationship. And fear is a lot. Financial reasons, lack of money, low self-esteem. And know that when they are thinking about leaving a relationship, that is probably one of the most dangerous times a person can do is leave, and really
So I want to
connecting
ask
them
you
with
guys as we're
resources.
headed into the last few minutes of the show, what are some of those clear warning signs a friend or family member can observe and decide to say something? Because those were some wonderful words that we heard from Dr. Brown. But what are some real clear, realistic warning signs?
Yeah, if you tell me right now, I'm about to start sending out text messages to people.
So okay, so it's important, if you hear about jealousy, controlling behavior,
Hmm.
isolation, a lot of this, you can't do things with your friends, or why are you wearing that? You can't do things with your family, or this. But see, it's important, when you asking a question about asking about, do you see this a lot? And then begin to listen for that pattern of controlling behavior, then that's when you
Consistency.
know that is some form of abusive relationship. Yeah.
I'm going to also say anxiety. Are they anxious all the time? Are they checking their phones a lot? How often does this individual call? Because they want to see where they're at, what they're doing. Another telltale, and people don't want to talk about this, is those statistics are indicators of a transgenerational issue. For a lot of women, they saw their mothers go through it. So it's the norm. So when you're saying or encouraging, a healthier relationship, this is all they know.
That is true. So that is all they know, right? And so as friends, we can say, okay, so you did see this, but you can break the cycle. You can change the pattern. You can change this generational pattern that we have seen or you've seen in your family, and begin to connect them with some resources, or with a shelter, or with a domestic violence coalition, or the hotline, but letting them know that you are with them, that they are not alone, and it is a process, and you're going to be with them throughout the way, and try not to get upset or frustrated when they're not ready to leave. Leaving is a process. This is not about you, it's about them, right? So really connecting with them in that way to let them know that someone cares about me, and it is very complex, and it is a process.
Thank you both so much for sharing. Before we leave, will you please let our listeners know where they can find you? Dr. Brown first, please.
Yes, and thank you all for the opportunity. You can find me on Instagram under Dr. Shanita Brown, on Twitter, Dr. Shanita Brown, also on Facebook, Dr. Shanita Brown.
That's consistent.
Yeah,
Absolutely, Melissa.
I try to be consistent, Dr.
You
Shanita
can find
Brown.
me on Instagram at Saving Superwoman. You all can also tune in on Monday nights on YouTube as well as Facebook to The Curve, and it's the Curve on Facebook and YouTube. We have a talk show for curvy women, and we talk
That's
about these
cool.
things and issues that are impacting women who are curvy. We have a lot of fun, so you can find me there.
Thank you. I want
That's
to check that
awesome.
out.
Yeah,
And so
that's
before
awesome.
we go, I just want to give the audience a phone number you can call if you find yourself in a domestic violence situation or being overly manipulated or controlled by a partner. You can call 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233.
Thank you. And you all know where you can find us, but if you don't know, you will hear it in just a second.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We
Awesome.
had a wonderful
Thank you
show.
so much.
And I
This
want
was
to thank our
great.
guests
Thank you.
for
Thank you
joining us
both,
today.
yes.
Dr. Brown and Melissa, thank
Yeah,
you so
thank
much.
you all.
You
Hi,
can
Melissa.
check
Thank
us
you.
out at
Yes.
www.2therapists, that's TWO therapists with an S.com, or link up with us on Facebook. Just search for Two Therapists.
And I'm Dr. Harrison Davis,
I'm Dr. Asha Dickerson.
and we will see you guys next time.